Hello, Eric. How's it going?
Dude, what's up? It's the first episode,
Yeah,
and intros to a podcast are always weird when it's new.
it is. And I don't even think when I started my first podcast, the intro, we always shoehorn the intro in later. But this podcast is going to be called The Creator's Cut, and I'll let you describe what is this podcast actually going to be about.
Yeah, so the creator's cut is really taking a look from the top perspective of the creator economy from people who are not Mr. Beast, right? We're not a Colin and Samir. We're not the people who are like performing at a high level, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're people performing at a mid level, right? We
Right.
got mid-size audiences, we got mid-size YouTube channels. We're like we've seen some success, we've earned some money in the creator economy space, but by no means are we like Mr. Beast
No.
millionaires. No, we are the people who are like everyday creators is kind of the phrase that I would like to use.
Mm-hmm.
And really the goal of the creator's cut is to give people who want to be an everyday creator a behind the scenes look at what it means to create content online.
Yep. Yep. And I feel like the first topic that we start off with, given that a new year's coming up, 2025, happy new year's for those who are watching this now. And the first topic, honestly, we have to start broad. Starting a YouTube channel in 2025. How do you start a YouTube channel? Should you start a YouTube channel? Shouldn't you start a YouTube channel? And the honest truth is, there's so many people out there, myself included, for years. I've met so many people who go, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I'm scared on camera. I don't like my voice. There's this, there's that. There's like so many excuses you can come up with and reasons on not to start a YouTube channel, right? Like what
A
are
hundred
like
percent.
what are some of the excuses that you've had or you've seen and you've had that I may have not heard of?
Man, and I think you listed so much of them, right? Like I'm not good on camera, this or that, like, I don't know where to begin. All that kind of stuff is there. I think one of the big fears I had initially when it came to content creation, because YouTube wasn't where I started. I actually started first writing on a website called medium.com, and I had a podcast called Coffee with Craft
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, and that's where I started content creating. But my biggest fear when I dove into content creating was, would anybody listen? Would anybody care? Would there be people who like want to listen to my voice? And the thing I learned was, wait, there are. Not only do I have my own personal sphere of influence in everyday life, but by creating content and putting content out into the ether that is the internet, I've actually grown my sphere of influence and who I can connect with practically on a regular basis. And so that's always the big objection I hear is, would anyone listen to me anyway, or who would listen to you anyway? And the reality is lots of people
Mm-hmm.
care about your brand and care about your voice. Some of them just haven't met you yet.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also that opposite side of things where there's times where you don't want people to care, like hater comments. A lot of people, a lot of the excuses I see people get are like when people leave, mean comments on the internet, and it's like, yo, if you want to survive this world, as sad as it is, you have to have that thick skin. Like, even if you do your best to avoid it as much as possible, and you become as neutral as possible, you are going to make somebody upset, and whatever you cannot feed into it. You cannot let that defeat you. Otherwise, that is pretty much they've won. They've won.
Oh yeah,
They've won if like
dude.
that mean comment goes in. Oh man, you're fat, man. What the heck happened?
You say that, and it's funny because I've been on the receiving end of a negative comment or two
Same here.
before. If you hang out on Twitter or X for like 5 minutes, someone's gonna roll up and they're gonna have something negative to say. And at first, like when I experienced, I think friction is the
Hmm.
right word, or tension in that moment, it can be disheartening, especially when it feels like, oh, it's a lot
Hmm.
coming at you at once. But the thing you have to remind yourself so much of in this space is that if you are starting content creation from a place of integrity and a
Hmm.
place of character and a place of good values, right? If you those three things are in place, right? And so like you have character and you have integrity and you have solid values, then when criticism comes,
Hmm.
you're able to tell yourself the truth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, no one is immune to criticism. If you work in an everyday job, you will face critics, right? Everybody has that, like, person that they've worked with before. I'm going to label them Bob. Everyone has encountered a Bob before, where Bob is the worst, right? They show up, or they're mean, or they're angry, and they're frustrating, right? And they have nothing but critique for you. But if you lead with character, if you lead with integrity, and you have a solid foundation of good values as an individual, you're able to tell yourself the truth and really bounce off that negative criticism. And
Yeah.
so we can never let negative criticism deter us from accomplishing what we want to, because there will always be negative criticism.
Oh yeah, and I was lucky. I would say lucky in my early years of being a content creator. I experienced a decent amount of criticism, but also not enough to the point where I wanted to give up. I've never have been really that super harsh, but at the same time, there's always that looming fear of like, oh God, I don't want to get super famous. I don't want to get big. Well, here's the thing: the great part about the online world is, even if you're successful on YouTube, you don't even necessarily have to go to be super famous. You could do other. There's other ways of protecting your privacy, other ways of protecting your identity. You don't even have to use your own voice in certain areas. You can outsource it. We'll save all that for other episodes. But the one comment that I had got today that was pretty criticizing, he said, "Are you proud of being part of the shitification of YouTube?" Basically, I was commenting on AI, and I was commenting to another content's post, and I just said, "Hey, yeah, content creator, like, way to go. You have to advance with AI or you'll be falling behind." And then talking about how my own use of it. And he just said, "Are you proud?" I'm like, I didn't comment in it anything that he directly said, but I just sort of bounced around and I'm like, hey, it will never replace human connection, blah, 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 blah. Check out this video. That's literally what I did.
Oh yeah, right. But like, man, and there will always be people who are critical.
Mm-hmm.
But moving past criticism, I think, is really, really good. So hey, like, as we get into this, right? Let's go from a top-down perspective. The idea, right, that like, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel, or I want to start a blog, or I want to be entering into the creator economy in 2025,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are the things I need to do to get started, right? Like, what are the big things that we need to do to get started? And I think the first thing we have to talk about is what we've been talking about, which is killing excuses, right? Because not only the excuses that we listed, right, but also the criticism that we face
Mm-hmm.
is ultimately just an excuse. And if I want to succeed at something in life, I have to kill excuses. What do you think about that statement?
I agree with it. If you are going to succeed in life and even on YouTube, you have to kill it. You have to kill the excuses as much as possible. And the way that I've tried to do it in ways that kind of work is to find kind of a counter arguments and really never. I know it's easier said than done, but once you get the ball rolling and once you like get stuff going, you have to keep moving forward with the action. Like, you have to look at all of your past accomplishments and look at what you've already done and have that be the amplifying message, and then kind of drown out the excuses with that. Because I still get the excuses from time to time. There's days that I could simply just lay in bed and not do anything today, or like, oh, I don't feel well. And I mean, not to say that there are legitimate reasons why you shouldn't make something today, but as long as you have that mission and that goal of where you're headed, and you were super passionate about it, and you look at all of your accomplishments, whether you're writing them in a notepad, whether you are writing them, you are cross-referencing stuff that you did and bringing it up and sharing those stories. Those sort of help drown out it when you sort of get the message out, and you see, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Man, that's good. I think the other problem, right, is that people don't just have excuses.
Hmm.
I think people often set the wrong goal. I think oftentimes people set the wrong goal. I have a book. Steven knows this. I'm a advocate of this book. It's called Finish by John Acuff. I bought this book. I think I was telling you, like, at least four times myself. I own the audiobook version. I own this signed copy by the author. I bought the Kindle version. I bought it for friends. I bought it for people who have worked for me and my intern and like people who have interned under me at my 9 to 5 job and stuff like that. I love this book. And the thesis of this book is that oftentimes people set the wrong goals. And John actually did a PhD study in the book, and I'm not going to go into all of that, but oftentimes 2025 is here, right? And
Hmm.
the gym is about to be packed. I'm going to go to Planet Fitness on Monday morning, and guess what? It's going to be packed at 5 a.m. and it's going to be hard to get a treadmill
Hmm.
because everybody was like, it's new year, new me. I'm going to lose the weight. And then no one will show up to the gym on February 1st. It'll be hilarious, right? Or even just a couple days after that. But man, like so much of the creator economy and so much of wanting to be an online content creator is people set the wrong goals. When you set the wrong goals, you are setting yourself up to fail. John
Hmm.
Acuff in the book has an analogy of like there are people who want to run a K when they've never run a single K,
Hmm.
let alone even run in the past 2 to 3 years, right? So why are you going to start with this huge goal of a marathon or a 5K when you just need to start with the habit of running? And so that is really what we get into with content creation is don't start with the big like challenge of like I'm going to make a YouTube channel and have a video every single week. Well, slow.
Whoa.
Pause, right?
Don't do it.
I make videos, right? It's hard to make a video every single week. It's hard to have a good video every single week. But right? That shouldn't deter you. It actually should say, now what can I do to get to where I have a video a week, right? What are the things I have to do to stack those goals to get really good at those things so that eventually I hit this big goal? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, that is like really good because people want to do too much at once, and I've even found out that I tried doing this many times where I have pretty much my personal goal might be different from someone else's, but
Yeah.
like I have it set to where if I'm doing anything creative or anything, I try to only keep it to no more than three things max a day, or three, sometimes even three things a week. Like depending on how big that project is, three things a week. And here's the craziest part about that is when you're spending sort of when you measure it out realistically and you say, okay, well, how much can I actually get done? You find yourself actually being more productive than if you try to do it every single day because you either burn yourself out or you're like, oh, I'm putting too much effort. I'm not getting the results I'm getting. And I think what's interesting about that is figuring out how to batch your stuff out. Um, and really like, I don't really think one of the things that I'm going back to when we talk about setting the wrong goal, especially for something like YouTube, is that everybody is very tied to vanity metrics, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
tied to the subscriber count, 5,000 hours of watch time, or however many it is now, which I think it's slightly less. And I'm not saying ignore the vanity metrics entirely. I think having some sort of vanity metric is great because it at least lets you see the progress you're making. You can kind of attach it to a goal. For example, when people set a metric goal of losing 80 to 100 pounds in a year or some crazy goal like that, one of the problems that having that goal does to you is you think that once you hit the goal you're done. This is a habit, this is a lifestyle, this isn't like you're complete, this isn't you just doing 10, 20 videos for a year and I'm done, I'm packing up, I'm off, I'm done with my videos, I'm never touching YouTube again. So have the metric in mind. I like to first start with the monetization metric, but I also want to say get your first video out, and then from there really look into, I would honestly, it's gonna hurt because you want to be satisfied to post it. If you really are serious about batching stuff out, try to have that posted like a month later. But if you have to post something, if you really must post something, there's no issue with that. Just having that batch recording and forgetting about it, setting it, getting your thumbnail done, everything like that, and then setting it for advance, you delay the gratification that you get from posting it, and you just kind of let it simmer. So when you get that motivation and you look at your stats, you're like, oh wow, okay, we posted this many videos. So it's definitely a key balance to try and get that all done.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think as you're speaking, right, one of the things you hit on was vanity metrics, which I love, right? I love that we talk about that because too many people focus on that first instead of focusing on the habit of content creation. The first thing you should focus on before vanity metrics is the habit of content creation. Now, I come from the church world and we have, like every other job in the world, we have what I would call vanity metrics, right? And so we oftentimes joke that they're the three B's. And so that's bucks, right? It's your budget, it's how much money your organization has, because it does take money for a church to run. You have salaries, ministry, lights, the building, all that kind of stuff, right? So bucks, budget matters. Two, butts, right? How many people are in the seat, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
preaching to one person in a room for 250, you've got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then baptisms, right? Like how much spiritual life change are we seeing? And so I know that's probably a lot for people who aren't spiritual. Sorry about that, but it's the analogy I've got. And so the the thing, right, is that all those metrics matter, but we have to pause and recognize they are vanity metrics, right? They help tell us the overall health of our organization. They don't tell the complete story of our organization. The same with YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right? Your likes, your views, your monetization, all of that, right? Your subscriber count. Let's just say subscriber count, your watch
Your
hours,
ad
and
revenue.
your ad revenue, right?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Let's lean in there. Ad revenue is great. You're getting paid. Subscriber count is great. The higher subscriber count you get, the more you can have opportunities for brand deals and things like that. It's awesome. Likes, that tells you, in comments, that tells you people are actually engaging with your content. All of that matters, comma, it doesn't tell the whole story of your creative pursuit. It doesn't tell the whole story of your creative pursuit. It tells a part of the story, and too many people focus on the things that tell the story as opposed to learning how to tell the story, right? Like you can't start with making monetization. You have to start with uploading your first video. And really, you can't even start with uploading your first video. You have to decide, what kind of content am I going to create? Am I going to go long form or short form? What systems and processes can I set up to help make this better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. And stop. This is just a side note. Stop listening to all those people on Twitter that tell you, "Hey, with this faceless channel, I grew my channel to 1 million subscribers and I earned 50,000 this month." It's like not to say that all of them are completely BSing you, but I will say that like it doesn't help you either starting out because you're like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna earn this amount of money with a faceless channel." You've never
I
done it
just
before.
I just have to say, not everybody can be a millionaire. The stats prove it. Not everybody's a millionaire. Why
No.
is Joe Schmo 19-year-old on Twitter a millionaire? Heads up. He's probably not. So, man, no, that's good. Hey, man, we've been talking for about 20 minutes now. You notice that?
Yes, I know. We haven't even got into the last one.
We haven't, man, and I feel like there's a lot we can continue to talk
Yes.
about. Like, how do I create content, long form or short form, and then keeping it frictionless?
Yes.
So I almost want to say I feel like we need a part two.
Yes, we do. We
Oh
need a
my
part
gosh.
two.
We need a part two. So, hey, do me a favor if you're listening to this podcast right now. Click that like button, click that subscribe button. It helps us. Vanity metrics matter, right? They tell part of the story. And let us know what your biggest takeaway from this episode was. And here's a challenge simply for you today: go and capture what your idea for your first YouTube video in 2025 is going to be.
Cool.